everyone. This is Erin Anding, and I am here today to talk to you about something extremely important. It's kind of the foundation for everything when you're working in the cloud, and that is the idea of access rights, okay, user rights. Um, a lot of us are still used to working with desktops and laptops, and we have our hard drive and things down, and it's on the device, or it's on the thumb drive, or it's on the disk. And it's very simple who has rights to see your stuff, i.e., it's whoever is sitting on the device. Unless you encrypt it or you add a lot of passwords to it, it's very simple. If you can get on the device, you can see the stuff. If you can't get on the device, you can't see the stuff. But we are now working in the cloud. Everything is living up in the virtual internet. And that means a lot of people can touch things that they might not should be doing, or you might want them to, but if you don't give it to them right, they can't. Everything is based on access rights. So this video is showing you access rights in Google, because I know many people are still working with Microsoft for a variety of reasons, and we do have access to that through Microsoft 365, and it's a wonderful program. I use one of them regularly. I will make another video related to that. But for right now, this is about Google, okay? And so I'm in Google Slides right now, showing you a sneak preview of my digital book display that's coming out Labor Day weekend. Labor Day weekend is celebrating those, who work in our country. We are a medical magnet, and those are our frontline workers for 2020. So I wanted to honor them, and I did that by making a medical digital book display. So I added in all these things, and like a Bitmoji classroom, there are links. So this is linked to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This is a link to our Mac and Via book account. Here's a link. Here's a link. That's a link. No, that's not a link. These are links to books in our Mac and Via. And all of these links work because of the level of access rights I've given. So some of these are, public, like this one. Anyone has the link, anyone can get to it. Over here, these links, they work perfectly if somebody is logged into their Mac and Via account. If they're logged to their Mac and Via account, it'll take them directly to what I want them to go to, which are the various books we have, or groups of books. If they're not logged into the Mac and Via, it'll take them as far as the Mac and Via sign-in page, but it goes no further. They have to log in to complete it. Okay? So here, even in something as simple as a Bitmoji classroom, access rights become important. If I had added something for my Google Drive, access rights become very important. Okay? So here is one layer of access rights. But there's also the concept of me sharing this entire Bitmoji classroom. If you've watched my other videos, you know that this is going to go on my Google site. How I put it there depends partly on the access rights. Now, when you give access rights, you are sharing. There are two places I can share in Google Slides, Google Drive, Google Docs, etc. One is up here where it says share. One is over here. Okay? You can also do it in Google Drive. Remember, this thing is also being saved in Google Drive. You can do it in Google Drive. But I'm going to go over here. Now, I've actually played with this one. I actually tried to make this video and then realized I said something wrong, so I stopped. So currently it's set to East Baton Rouge Parish Schools. Anyone in this group with this link can view. That's actually not the default. Okay? The default is one called restricted. It is the most severe. It's the most restrictive, private, etc., which is a good thing, because you don't just want to release anything without thinking about it. This one's kind of set to the middle right now. Now, notice there are two boxes. You can share with top box, bottom box. Now, top box is sharing with people in groups specific. So let's say I wanted to give access rights to my student workers. My student workers have been researching hyperlinks for future Bitmoji classrooms, digital book displays. So maybe the next step is they actually add the hyperlinks. So I could give them rights. I could give them the ability, and I would share it with them. There's only 3 or 4 of them. So this would be the simplest one. We would share it. It'd be amongst our little group of people. I'd put in there, Google accounts, I would share. But on a Google site, we're talking usually about a larger group of people. And that's where we need to get a link. All right, this is for a couple people, a specific group. This is for large groups of people, or, more than just a couple, usually. And watch what happens. When I get a link, there are two little arrows, and you need to pay attention to the little drop arrows. This is the first one. This is the level of restriction that we're going to set it to. Okay, how tight are we going to keep this? The most restrictive, which is the default currently, is restricted. And in that one, if I did not give you individual rights, or you do not specifically request it with, asking electronically, you don't get it from me. Okay? This one here is East Baton Rouge Parish Schools. If you do this one, the person has to be logged into their ABR account. They have to prove that they are someone within our organization. Now, that could be a student, that could be a faculty member, that could be an administrator. But if they are not part of our domain, our world, they cannot get to it. Okay? Now, anyone with the link, that's just putting it out there. Okay? Now, in most situations, like your Google Classroom, sticking with this one is fine. Okay? They had to log in, they're in their Google Classroom, they proved who they are, it is what it is. But a Google site is meant for a larger crowd. Okay? Think of who goes to a Google site. Your students, yes, will go to your Google site, and they have an EBR account. Those in your department might go to it. Your administrators might go to it. But think about who's really going to it. The people who are really going to your Google site are mom, dad, grandma, the babysitter, a prospective parent, um, who might be considering sending their child to our school. These are people who are not part of the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. They need the link, if you want them to see it, to be anyone with the link. They are not going to be able to prove that they are someone who has access under this one or this one. Okay? Now, there are times on a Google site where you might still want to restrict it. I'll give an example in a second. But for the most part, on a Google site, you need to change the link to anyone with the link. Okay? Because you need mom, you need that prospective parent, you need the guardian to see it. Okay, now I'll give you an example of when you might still need to do it on a Google site where you need to restrict. And that's actually one from me, and that is usernames and passwords for databases. Okay, library services writes a contract for subscriptions to the databases, and part of that contract is that we will not post usernames and passwords in extremely public places. If I use this link with the username and passwords, I'm in direct violation of the contract. I can get the district in trouble. Okay. And that is why we used to only secure them in our catalog. And then eventually it dawned on me I could do it in a Google Classroom, because you have to sign into a Google Classroom so you prove who you are. And then it dawned on me it should be okay on a Google site as long as one of these two is being used. Okay? If I use this link right here, you have to prove that you are an employee or a student of the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. So you proved who you are, you proved that you're someone who needs and has rights to those usernames and passwords, and I'm okay. This one, a problem. Okay? So think that out. Which level of restricted access are you going to give on your Google site? In most situations, you're going to go with this one. If you go with this one, they have to be logged into their account. If you go to this one, you're literally going to have to say that they request. Notice here, this is the other drop down. So this one is who can touch it. Think of the who. Who can see it? This one is their level of ability to manipulate it, to touch it, to change it. Okay? Notice viewer, commenter, editor. Okay? Viewer is the one where it's a look, no touch. They can read it, they can look at it, they cannot change it. For the most part, when you put something on your Google site, it's going to be viewer. whether it's viewer in EBR or it's viewer with anyone with the link. It's a look, no touch. Then there's commenter. Commenter is where they can view and they can make suggestions and comments. So this is good for like a peer editing situation. All right. Look, give feedback, but no changing is allowed. Editor is full rights. An editor can change, they can delete, they can move, they can do whatever because they have the same rights pretty much as you. This is just as important as who has access. The level of access, what they can do with it, is just as important, because think about if you give editing rights in a situation to students or parents who shouldn't have it, and think of the potential havoc that can come from that. Okay? Notice this one right now is set to anyone with the link and viewer. If that's what I want, that is probably the most used one that's going to show up on a Google site. If it's anything you want a parent, a prospective parent, a news person, something of that nature, you're going to do anyone with the link, and you're probably going to do view. Okay? If you got to restrict it a little more, you're going to go to one of these two, and you're still probably going to do viewer. In most situations, I'm not going to be seeing editor. I could see commenter, if you had something out there and you wanted parents or students to make comments and give feedback. But for the most part, viewer. It's viewer, commenter, and editor. The one big exception is in Google Forms. There, it's an all or nothing. You either don't have rights or you're effectively an editor. I think they use a contributor or something, but it's an all or nothing. You either have rights and it's all rights, or you don't. But most of the other ones, viewer, commenter, and editor. All right. Make sure beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're using the link that you want used. Okay. Access and ability to manipulate, and who can do it. Both are very, very important. In my next video, we're going to talk about the same thing, but I'm going to show it from a Microsoft side. Okay. If you have any questions, please let me know. And thank you so much.